But secondly, in verse 13, a maturing walk of faith knows how to deal with temptation. Look at verse 13. Let no one say when he is tempted, I am being tempted by God. For God can't be tempted with evil, and He doesn't tempt anybody. But everyone is tempted when he is dragged away by his own lust. How do you like that? Dragged away. That's an interesting way of putting it. A maturing walk of faith will deal with temptation. First of all, in verse 13, maturing saints will understand where temptations come from, and they will resist them. That's all you need to do to be victorious, is understand where temptations come from and resist them. And he says here in verse 13 that temptation comes from our own insides, from our own lustfulness. Secondly, starting in verse 14, maturing saints will turn from desires that will drag them away from God, and they will develop a revulsion for the rebellious flesh we live in. You know, God saved us and gave us a brand new heart, but we still live in this container that's at war against Him. Our bodies, you know, the one that didn't want to get out of bed this morning, the one that you need to teach a little mind over mattress, you know, that's a good lesson to learn. Someone that gives into that, the book of Proverbs says, is going to always their whole life be defeated unless they can learn to not be like, the writer of Proverbs says, like the hinge, you know, the door on the hinge that just keeps turning, you know, turning and hitting the snooze button. That's. Now I know you didn't do that because you're here, but all those people in the second service, you know, we have to wonder about them. But verse 13 and 14 says that we turn from the desires that would drag us away from God. And then look at verse 17. James also taught them that morning one of the great facets of God. A maturing walk of faith that deals with temptation always appreciates the faithfulness of God. Now look at verse 17. Every good thing bestowed, every perfect gift comes from the Father of lights, with whom there is no variation or shifting shadow. In the exercise of His will, He brought us forth by the word of truth, that we might be, as it were, the first fruits among His creatures. And that's the New American Standard Version. But what he's saying there is that God's so faithful. He began the work in us. He's the one that started salvation, and He's the one that's going to finish it. And He doesn't shift around. He's not shifty like we are sometimes. And as a maturing walk of faith deals with temptation, those saints appreciate God's faithfulness.